Okay, so here is a Naplex question. Right away, I see a study. It has a background, methods, results, conclusions. So I'm going to go straight to the question. From the abstract above, what is the number needed to treat? Also known as NNT. What is the number needed to treat with the Strongheart to prevent one death? Strongheart is the name of a drug here, as it says. So the first thing you need to know is how to calculate number needed to treat. So NNT, that's defined as 1 divided by ARR, which stands for absolute risk reduction. And that's also defined as the control event rate minus the experimental event rate. So right away, I know I'm going to have two different groups. So I'm going to go look for the numbers straight ahead. So background, skip that. So methods, I see this number, 3,991, but that's the total number of patients, whereas I'm looking for two different groups. So I just read through it really fast, and then I'm going to see here that here's the total number of patients in the study, and there's two different groups. One that's 1,990 patients, that's assigned to the Strongheart group, which is our treatment group, or experimental group. And then I have another group here that has 2,001 patients that was assigned to placebo. Right, so I have my two groups here. 1,990, that is the experimental group. And then right here I have 2,001 patients, that is the placebo group, which is also known as the control group. And then I want to see what the experimental rate is in each of those. So it doesn't tell you in here, it'll be in the results. So when I see the results here, all-cause mortality. Here is the results that correspond to these two treatment groups. So they say all-cause mortality was lower in the Stronghold group than in the placebo group. So 196 patients died in the Strongheart group versus 219 patients that died in the placebo group. So this 196 patients refers to the experimental group here, because this was the Strongheart group, and then versus 219 patient deaths in the placebo group. So that corresponds to this group here, this 2001. So now I just plug in the numbers here in our formula. So control experimental rate, that is the placebo. So that is 219 patient deaths, because this was a placebo, all divided by the total number in that group, which was 2,001, because those were assigned the placebo. And then subtract that by our experimental event rate, which is right here, 146, because this was deaths in the Strongheart group, all divided by the number of people in that group. So that was 1,990. So you're going to have a really simplistic calculator. So you have to calculate these individually first. So 219 divided by 2001. If you put that in your calculator, that equals 0.1094458. And then now do this in your calculator, 146 divided by 1,990. That equals 0.07336683. And then subtract these two in your calculator. So 0.1094458 minus 0.07336683. That equals 0.03607845. And then use your calculator to take 1 divided by 0.03607845. And you should get 27.717377. And the question says round up to the nearest whole number. So round this up, it'll be 28. So 28 is your final answer. And that's the number needed to treat. And that's it for this question. So I'm just going to have extra information for people that still don't get it. So 27.7. Whenever you see this number, I guarantee you this 10th place is going to be at least 5, because the test makers, they're going to want you to round up no matter what. Because in real life, when you calculate number needed to treat, this number is always rounded up no matter what. So if this was 27.1, you round up to 28. If this answer is 27.2, it still rounds up to 28. It doesn't matter what the decimal place is after. You always round up when you calculate number needed to treat. But then these test makers, they want to make sure you get it right. So this number here will always be at least 5. So that's how you know you did it right. And so another thing to note, you see all these, there's some extra numbers here that died. So this was sudden deaths, 69, 132 in Strongheart versus placebo. And they have another deaths in worsening heart failure, that's 30 versus 58 in the placebo. These are all both secondary outcomes. So you don't need to calculate that because the question was only asking for the number needed to treat with the Strongheart to prevent one death. And that's the primary outcome. So that's why I use these two numbers here. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. Thank you.